Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf. CHULLIN Kuf Chaf Vav. We're holding 8 lines from the top. V'rami, Drab Yesi, Ad Rab Yesi. Now we have an apparent contradiction between yesterday's Rab Yesi and today's Rab Yesi. So yesterday's Daf ended. It concluded with a premise that according to Rabbi Yesi's opinion, even a tumah, a kazayas of mace material, which gives off tumah to anything under the same roof, tumah's oil. So if that kazayas has some room to spare, has some room to breathe, it's under a regular, roof with proper airspace, meaning there's a tefach, by a tefach of space above it. So it's in an area which constitutes a proper oil, then the tumah spreads to anything underneath that covering, but not beyond that. So that roof forms a barrier, protects anything beyond it. It stops it from continuing. But if it's trapped, tumah temuna, buried, ritzutza, trapped, scorched, that tumah, according to the prevalent opinion, is beikas va'oila. It punches through, it forces its way through, and just rises up. It goes through that barrier, all the way up. Rabbi Yesi disagrees with that opinion. His position is that even a tumah temuna, even a tumah item which is buried, which is trapped, will just stay in there, will be contained inside that containment, and not force its way through that barrier. Now we seem to have a Rabbi Yesi in the next Mishnah who says just the opposite, that in fact a tumah temuna will punch through and rise up. This now we have a Mishnah Kelev, we have a dog, she'achal b'sar meis. He ate a chunk of flesh of a person who's a mace, which is matame be'oil. Now typically this would be considered tumah belua, swallowed tumah in a live animal, which doesn't give off tumah. It's swallowed inside, it's part and parcel of the animal. But here, umeis hakelev, the dog actually died, and the flesh is still fresh and undigested. So basically you have a kelev who's serving as a container, or as an oil, if you may, for that tumah material inside of him. And where is the kelev? Umutal alay skupa, is lying on the threshold, middle of the doorway. Rashi says his mouth, his face is inside the house, and his tail side is outside the house. Okay, so this would be the threshold, the doorway. Okay, and this is the dog, this is the head, this is the tail. He's sitting on the threshold, and we have face in, tail out. Okay. Rabbi Omer, im yesh b'tzavar. So what's the status of that house? Im yesh b'tzavar peseach tefach. If the neck of that dog is wide enough, so the surface area is a tefach wide. Peseach tefach means it's a tefach wide. Right? So that constitutes an oil. For an oil, you have to have at least a tefach wide, and that top surface serves as a transmitter, transporter of the tumah that's lying beneath it, brings it into the house. Maybe it's a tumah v'imla, but otherwise, if the external surface area of that neck, so he works with external surface area, v'imla, but otherwise, it's too narrow to constitute an oil. Maybe it's a tumah. He's not going to bring the tumah into the house. Rabbi Yesi says like this, and at this point, it seemed like he's saying, Roin mikeneged ashkoif. We determine where the actual contaminated material is inside the animal. Where is it? Is it inside the inner part of the animal or the outer part of the animal? So basically, it would seem like Rabbi Yossi is referring to the second element of Rameir, where the tzabar has no tefach in dimension, so it's not going to be an oil. So now that tumah is sort of stuck, it's trapped in a non-oil entity, it's just trapped all around. So what happens? The tumah just punches right through and rises to the occasion. So if in fact that kazayis is situated inside on the inner portion of that dog in the house, so anything in the house is tameh, because it sort of spreads out and affects everything. If it's on the outside, then the house is spared. Rain, we look, we see, we determine. If the tumah inside a dog is situated within the door jamb, habai is tameh. Then anything in the house is tameh because the house is housing tumah. But if it's on the other side of the door, so let's just stop for a second. We already have our contradiction. It would seem like Rabbi Yossi clearly concurs with this concept that tumah temuna, the buried tumah, will just rise up and metame. Okay, let's just continue in the Mishnah. Rabbi Lezer Omer, he has a different opinion. He says it depends on the tail side of the animal, which is where the animal typically expels its content. That's considered the exit route of the tumah. So it depends where that is. Rabbi Lezer Omer, piv lifnim, if the mouth, meaning the face, is inside the house and the backside is outside, so that's where the tumah typically would travel, habayis tar, so the house is spared of tumah. But if it's the other way around, the house is considered tameh, because that's the exit area of the tumah, in which case the house is considered like part of the tumah domain. But if the mouth is facing outside and the back is inside, habayis tameh. Pipnei explains, since shetuma yoytza derech shulav, the tumah typically leaves its tail area, and that's considered the exit route of the tumah, and that's metame the house. Rabbi Yehuda ben Seir Omer, he says, you know what, that's one way to look at it. A tumah can be expelled from the back, but sometimes the tumah can be vomited out of the front, and after all, that's where the tumah went in, so the tumah sort of bounces back that way too, halachically. He says, benkach or benkach, whether the face is facing inside or outside, or where, it doesn't matter where it is. Habai is tameh, the house is tameh, because the house is considered an extended domain of that tumah material. Okay. Now, our main focal point is Rabbi Yossi, right? Who responded to Rabbi Meir. We have to view where the tumah is, and that's what determines. My love, let's assume I ein betzavorei peseach tefach koi Rabbi Yossi. Apparently, he was going on the second element of Rabbi Meir. If there is no peseach tefach on that neck, so it doesn't qualify as a transporter, as an oil, so the stuff beneath it is just trapped within a small area, a non-oil qualifying area, that's called trapped tumah. What does Rabbi Yossi say? What's the status of the house? Well, if that kazayis happens to be in the part of the dog which is inserted into the house, the whole house is tummy. Anything under that roof is considered under the same roof as the tumah, because the tumah sprouts forth. Ushemami, no. So this confirms for us that in fact, even according to Rabbi Yossi's opinion, tumuna baikas, a buried tumah rises up. In contrast to yesterday's conclusion. Amar Rava, no. But when he said Ryan, he didn't mean let's determine where the kazayis is in the body of the dog vis-a-vis the house. Ryan es chalal atuma katani. He was referring to the first element of Rabbi Meir, who says that if the top surface area of the neck, the external dimension is a tefach wide, it qualifies as an oil and can transport the tumah from one side into the house. Rabbi Yossi disagrees with that. He says, I take issue with your method of determining dimension. It's not external, it's about the internal. The inside has to be an oil. When we speak about a tefach being oil, being a tefach wide, we're not talking about the outside, we're talking about the space inside, the internal dimension where the actual tumah is lying. That has to be a tefach. The gap there has to be a tefach wide to allow for it to be considered an oil. So that's what he's taking issue with. Royan is chalal tumah ktani. So that was his response. Unrelated to the buried, he's talking about just the opposite. When it's a proper, in order to qualify for proper oil, you need halal hatumah, the hollow, the space, the internal dimension has to be a tefach wide. Royin is halal tumah ketani. That's what he meant. That's first of all. And he actually took issue with another point as well. If you look back at his words, he says, Royin mekeneged ashkoif, something to do with the doorpost. What does that have to do? Rabbi Yossi betarti palak. Rabbi Yossi, in effect, is arguing on 2 points. He takes 2 issues with Rameir. Firstly, as we said, in terms of determining dimensions, so he responds to Rameir. First of all, the Ka'amris, in terms of what you said, that yesh b'tzavari pesach tefach, maybe it's a tumah. So the neck is a tefach wide that serves as an oil to transport the tumah to the house. Anan basar chalal azninan. Our focal point is the internal, not the external. It's about the chalal, the space inside that neck. I agree, if it's a tefach wide, fine, but you can't just work with the external dimensions. Right? It's about where the tumah is situated, which is inside. That has to be a tefach wide to qualify as an oil. Number 2, vilka amris. In terms of what you said, ali skupa kula tumah, just in general, the tumah is sitting on that threshold, the whole house becomes tumah. No, you know what? There are 2 sides to a threshold. Right? So this is the doorway. Right? This is the doorway. This is the top of the threshold of the doorway. Well, depends where the door is jamming, right? So until where the door jams, that's considered the inside of the house. But past that point, even if it's within the doorpost area, that is halachically outside the house. So when you say it's kulei tami, no, mekeneged ashkoif v'lefnim, from the jam where it hits the jam, facing inside, habayis tami. Yeah, if the tumah is there, you're right. That affects the house. That's part and parcel of the house. But mekeneged hashkoif, the chutz Rashi says shkoif means banging. Brings us a lot of rayas. Mashkoifi, tarafa de shkoif, shkufos kodem. A lot of rayas from Chumash. The point of contact from there on outside, mekeneged hashkoif the chutz habayis torah. That's beyond the house. So tumah there does not affect the house. Okay, but in any case, we clarified that in fact Rabbi Yossi is consistent with yesterday's Rabbi Yossi that tumah temuna is not bekas ba'olam. Rabbi Achabar the Rav Masna behedya, he had it clearly stated in the Mishnah, as we had explained, that Rabbi Yossi Omer roinas chalal tumah. Rabbi Yossi was responding to this measurement system of Rameir by saying, look, it's about what's inside the neck. So the neck has to be big enough that the inside dimension has to be a tefach for it to be considered an oil. Okay, continues the Gemara. Uman tana de palagolei Rabbi Yossi. So at this point we have 2 conclusions in terms of Rabbi Yossi's opinion. Firstly, that temuna is not bekas v'oila. Number 2, which we discussed extensively yesterday, that according to Rabbi Yossi, the term noigeyat, touching, at times refers to tumas oil as well, which is a subset of negei, which is a variation of touching. It's an interaction, albeit in a different manner, from a distance, right? It still can be called negei. But there's an opposing opinion, right? Who's the opposer of this opinion? Who considers negei to be negei only, and not referring to tumas oil? Umantana de palagod Rabbi Yossi. Who disagrees with Rabbi Yossi? Who is of the opinion that the term nageya refers strictly to physical touch, physical interaction, rather than tumas oil? It's Reb Shimon, the son of Reb Shimon. Return to Amadeus. Shalosh tumas parshais bin hameis. Rashi explains a person who was lifeless, a mace, has many aspects of tumah. A kazayas of his basar, his spine, his skull, bones, all different variations of tumah that can be taken from a mace. But there are 3 that are unique. Shalosh tumas, 3 elements of tumah parshais bin hameis are taken off the mace, which are unique in a sense that their tumah capabilities is not all-encompassing. Typically, A mace is metame through maga, direct contact, direct touch, masa, by carrying the material, and oil. These three elements on this upcoming list, we'll only have two of the three in varying variations. So between maga, masa, and oil, we'll have only 2 out of 3. So this one will have these two, this one will have those two, etc. Shtayim b'chol achas, 2 of the 3 tuma capabilities will be present in any of these aspects. So ushlishis ein behem, but they don't have the third one. Elohin, what are the 3 on this list? Muloi tarbat rekev, spoonful of the decomposed material, v'etzam kas'eira, barley-sized bone chip, v'goyel v'daifik. Rashi explains goyel is the side walls of the coffin, v'daifik is the cover of the coffin, which are metame. It's based on a pasuk. So these are the 3 items we're going to discuss. Maloi tarvat rekav, so the first item, which 2 elements of tumah does it have? Metame b'masa b'oil. You carry it, or you hover above it, you're tumah. Ve'en metame b'maga, if you touch it, now here clearly, the term maga means physical touch. Right? That's why there's no tumas maga, because when you touch a heap of granules, you haven't really touched the entire heap of separate granules. Right? Each granule is separate from the next. When you touch a couple, you have touched just that point of contact. You haven't really touched the whole mass. Therefore, there's no tumas maga. So clearly, Reb Shimon, inciting the term maga means physical contact. Not that maga means oil, right? So clearly, Reb Shimon disagrees with this semantics. Interchangeable oil maga approach. So where do you have tumas maga by a mace? Machas man with the other items. You don't have it by the rekev. Next on the list is etzem katsayra. What tumah does that have? Metame b'masa b'oil. You carry it, you touch it. B'masa b'maga. I mean, there's no oil on that. That's the halacha regarding the etzem katsayra. Where do you have oil by the mace? And machas man regarding the other items. And finally, goyel v'doifek. What do they have? Metame b'maga b'oil, but they don't have metame b'masa. Rashi says, not sure how we know that. There's no masa v'ech masoy. Where do you have masa by the mace? In machas man regarding the other items. Okay, continues the Gemara. Kulis nevela b'kulis hasheretz tanarabana. So the marrow bone of an avela, of a sheretz, is metame, provided the marrow is accessible through at least a little minuscule hole into which you can insert your body hair and make contact with that edible material. But otherwise, if it's completely sealed, so even if you touch or carry that bone, there's no tumah, because it only serves as a conduit if the contaminated material within it is somewhat accessible. And that's going to be learned from the following pasuk. Tanar Rabban, here comes a brayso. If one physically interacts, touches the nevela material, the flesh of the dead animal. Nevela means the flesh, because nevela means it's been undergone a change for the worse. It turned from a live flesh to dead flesh. That only pertains to the flesh, which changes forms. It turns from live to dead, but the bone, stays in the same condition, whether it's alive or pretty much if it's alive or dead. So the visible change, the profound change, pertains to flesh. B'nivlasa, he touched the actual flesh of an avela, as opposed to a sealed bone. Perhaps even if it got a puncture, it will be free of tumah. Tamalem hanageya yitma. So Rashi says it's the extra yud. Hanageya yitma is coming to expand it, to apply tumah, if, in fact, the edible bone marrow material within it is somewhat exposed, somewhat accessible. In that case, the bone now serves as a shomer, as a conduit for that tumah, in which case if you touch it, you become tummy. If the edible material within it, the marrow of the nevela, is accessible, is able to be touched through that hole, tummy, then everything's tummy. But otherwise, if it's fully sealed, out of the way, then the bone is tahar. Amalei Rab Zera Labai. So there asks Abaye el mi'ata. If you're telling me that sealed material does not give off tumah, what about a behema, a dead animal? It's still enwrapped in its hide. Ba'ira. Later time, there shouldn't be any tumah because it's fully sealed. The answer is puk chazek. Go take a look. How many holes are there? You have the mouth, the nose, the eyes. So the flesh is accessible from the outside. Amalei papala the Rava. Another question. Elamiat. If that's the case, that's sealed, is spared. Kul yibachelba. I'll call you the kidney, and wrapped in its fat. Later time, there shouldn't be any tumah because the flesh is sealed. No, tachazek. Come take a look. Kama chudin. How many flesh strands nimshach and emanate from that kidney through the fat to the outside? So technically, it is considered accessible. Ba'i Rav Oishia. So a sealed marrow bone, spared of tumah. Punctured, there is tumah. What if he intends on puncturing it? You haven't gotten around to it yet. So it's on its way, but not yet there. Ba'i Rav Oishia. He intends on puncturing it, but wasn't yet punctured. Ma, what's its status? Mechusar nakiva. The fact that it wasn't yet punctured, kimechusar ma'asadami, is it treated as though it's lacking an action, meaning it's not yet there. So it's not yet tummy. Or you can say, maybe not. The fact that it's on the program, so it's considered as though the food is already accessible. Hadar Pashta, he responded, yep, mechusar nakiva, just because it has no hole yet, love kimechusar ma'asadami, it's not considered lacking. We treat it as though it's already exposed and accessible. Continues the Mishnah. So we know that there are 8 creeping creatures, right? The mouse, toad, etc., that are metame if they die. What about the egg of one of these creatures? Hamrukemes, which has already developed, somewhat of an embryo within it. So technically, it is sheretz material that's dead, right? But the egg is sealed. So once again, it's like a sealed marrow bone. If one touches that sealed egg, he's tar, unaffected by the content within. As we explained, because since the food material within it, the contaminated material is inaccessible, is sealed all around. There's no tumas maga, there's no tumas masa either. But nikva kolshu, if it got even a teeny little hole, Tame. So now, the whole thing is tummy. Rashi explains, even though he didn't yet touch the embryo, he just touched the egg from the outside, but it's considered a shimer, because it's guarding, it's sealing, it's protecting the internal material, and therefore serves as a conduit for that tumah. Now comes a very interesting phenomenon. Achbar, you have this unique mouse, not your very conventional mouse. This mouse is half flesh and half earth. Rashi explains it's a certain type of achbar, which is not reproduced by way of standard mating system. Rather, it grows out of the ground. Interestingly, the Rambam in Pirsha Mishnah writes that is baffling as this phenomenon sounds. But he says that many people told me about it, that they've traveled and they've seen this type of creature growing out of the ground. So while it's still half and half, shechetzi basar, it's half flesh, v'chetzi adama, it's still half earth. So it is sort of taking on the form of it. You see the formation fully, but half of it is not yet developed. What status does it have? It's not alive, so it's a dead sheretz at this point. And again, a basar tummy. If one touches the flesh side, his tummy. Ba'adama torah, touches the earth side, his torah. It's not considered a sheretz. Rabbi Daimer, no. Afan ageh ba'adama shekenegdash abasar tummy. Likewise, if you touch the soil side, which is adjacent to the basar, which is forming as part of that, which is a sheretz, in development, then his tummy as well. Tam Rabbanan. Hatmeim. This is a pasuk by the Shratzim. The extra hay covers all these items. The Rabbi's beitzas hasheretz, v'kulas hasheretz, includes even the beitz of the sheretz. You would think in order for the sheretz to be matame, it has to be one of those 8 distinct types. So this undeveloped embryo of a sheretz, I understand it's coming from a sheretz, but it's not yet a toad. It's not a developed toad. Perhaps it doesn't have the status of a toad or of a snake, or of mouse, right? Comes the pasuk and says, no, since it was laid by the sheretz and it's somewhat developed in there, it's going to have tumah. V'kulas hasheretz, likewise, the marrow bone of a sheretz, these all give off tumah. Yochel afil leirikma, perhaps the egg of the sheretz will give off tumah even without an embryo developed inside. Just a plain egg of a sheretz is considered lifeless sheretz material and gives off tumah. Perhaps. Talmud loimar, comes the pasuk and specifies hasheretz. Not an egg, it has to be like a sheretz, like a creeping being. Ma sheretz. Sheri came. So just like the actual sheretz is something which has the form of a creature, likewise. The egg of a sheretz is only going to be considered a matame if it has the form of a sheretz. So there's some sort of embryo within it which is reminiscent of a sheretz. So once we're matame the beitzas hasheretz with the embryo, perhaps even without a hole, completely sealed. Pasuk says if you touch, right, you become tamei. What is the pasuk saying? Liga needs to be that possibility to touch the internal material. Then you are tamei for even touching the egg. But v'es she'ef shaliga, but if there's no way to touch that internal material, then, right, if it's fully sealed, right, the egg is fully sealed, the bone is fully sealed, then when you touch from the outside, you are tar. So on the one hand, the pasuk is adding the egg and adding the bone, but there's a condition to it, provided that the internal material is accessible from the outside. And in that case, even if you touch the outside, it's an active shemer which serves as a conduit for the tumah. How big does that hole have to be? Even a minuscule hole, size of a hair, which allows you to insert your body here, or bichut asar, which allows you to technically insert your body here and make contact with that internal material. So once there's that availability, once that option is there, now the tumah is activated and applies to the external shell as well as a shemer. What about this ground mouse? So Tanakama says this half-developed achbar, which is half flesh but the other side still earth. If you touch the flesh side, you're tummy. Amar Shem Alevi, there's a condition attached to it, provided that the flesh side is really developed from head to toe. So half of it is fully developed, half not. So if you touch the half-developed side, you're tummy. But if even the half-flesh side is not fully developed, there's no tumah. Ika the masna asef. Now some apply this rule to the second part of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yudah says, even if you touch the opposite side, the earth side, you're tummy. On that we have this stipulation. On condition that the flesh side is fully developed from head to toe. In that case, even the earth side is sort of connected and relates to it as well. Okay, so we have two versions of this stipulation. This requirement to have hishrus apnei kuloi, fully formed from head to toe. Is it referring to the Tanakama? That when you touch the flesh side, you become tummy, provided that it's fully developed. Is it going on Rabbi Yehuda? Even the earth side is metami, provided the flesh side is fully developed. Now, man masna reisha, the one who applied the rule to the first opinion, koshkan seifa, certainly according to Rabbi Yehuda, it is a requirement. Because even according to Tanakama, who's speaking that you're touching the flesh, he still says, well, it's only when it's fully developed. Certainly according to Rabbi Yehuda, where you're not even touching the flesh side, touching the other side. This would be a requirement for a tumah, that the flesh side, at least the flesh side, is fully developed. And that sort of drags in the earth side as well. But, however, Uman the Maslan Seifa, the one that applied the rule to the second part of Mr. Rabbi Yehuda, that by touching the earth side, your tummy as well. But there's a condition, provided the flesh side is fully developed, aval reisha, but perhaps, according to Tanakama, who's speaking that you're touching the flesh side directly, perhaps he doesn't have this requirement. Perhaps even if it isn't fully developed from head to toe, whatever it is, and it's metame. Okay, so pick it up tomorrow, B'ez Hashem. In the meantime, we have interesting discussion regarding Tuma Tumuna, which according to B'ezi is not B'kiava Oila. We have the idea that Negeya can sometimes refer to oil, according to Rabbi Yossi, but not according to Rabbi Shimon. We have Psukim that the kulis of an avela, of a sheretz, the beitza sheretz is metame, but again, provided that the material is accessible, there's some sort of hole which allows you to insert at least the chut hasara to get there, and that activates the tum on the whole thing. We had an interesting phenomenon of this beitza achbar shechetzi basar v'chetzi adama, half flesh, half earth. So a sheretz in production. What happens, according to Tanakama, if you touch the flesh side, your tummy, according to Rabbi, even the earth side, and there's a condition that at least the flesh side should be fully developed. Okay, all the best to you, and atzlacha, Rabbi.